asked to take an equation and sketch its graph, but you're also going to be asked to take a graph and identify what happened, what transformations from the parent function occurred to give you that graph. Okay, so let's start with this first one here. If I look at this, the parent function or the basic function that looks like this is going to be what? You guys remember what that one was called? The parent function is going to be 1 over x squared. So this is a reciprocal squared function. Okay, again, make sure you're familiar with those, what they're called toolkit functions. Make sure you're familiar with all the parent functions. Okay, and so when we look at this, again, the normal piece of this right here, okay, the normal like intersection of those asymptotes is going to be at the origin. Okay, so what kind of shifting occurred here? Vertically it moved up how many? It moved all the way up to 8, and horizontally it moved left 2. Okay, so when you look at those shifts, what we now have to do is work back in, sort of reverse engineer this equation. So the equation is going to be y is equal to, or f of x, or whatever they ask you to write it in. But y is equal to, and it's 1 over x minus something plus or minus on the outside. Well, the vertical shift is on the outside, so plus 8 goes outside. And then it's a minus 2, so I put a minus 2 here, x minus a minus 2. And that is my function. Now I have to square it, okay, because it's a reciprocal squared. Okay, and so this becomes my equation that gives me the graph that was presented. Okay. All right, I want you to try with these remaining two. See if you can come up with the equation that's needed to give you each of those graphs based on how you would adjust your parent function. So when we look at this function, the first thing is to identify the parent function. The parent function is what for this? This is square root of x. Okay, and so we're going to take that function, y is equal to the square root of x plus or minus something, and then plus or minus something on the outside. So what is our vertical shift here? It goes, so, or it goes, now remember we're working from where the parent function would be. So this is where we're starting. So this point goes down 7, and then it goes to the right 8. So there's our transformations. So the the minus 7, down 7 goes outside my function, and the plus 8 goes inside, and it's always x minus whatever that transformation is. So x minus 8. Again, if you needed to think what value of x gives you a 0 in here is positive 8, and this is your function. Okay, the parent function for this last one is what? The V shape is absolute value, and so when you look, we have y is equal to the absolute value of x minus something plus or minus something. Okay, what is the vertical shift? This moved up 5, so that's a plus 5 on the outside. And what's my horizontal shift? To the left, 9, so minus 9, so minus 9 goes inside my function, and when I simplify what I have, I'm looking at this. Okay. Questions on finding the equations of a graph that you see?